to GameThinkTalk Live. My name is Matt. You are listening to a really loud bossa nova from Final Fantasy 13. The game everybody loves to hate from Yasha Massif. Corey Lavoie is telling us about some freaky YouTube video. A video so freaky it freaked him out and he can't even repeat it. It's so bad. He can't even repeat what he saw. Got our levels figured out here. Corey says go watch, what is it called? Joyce, I Miss You, Joyce Chu. Skip to 140. Maybe we'll have to check that out after. All right, so we're going to be talking about gaming news this week. First off, Destiny 2, and also your... Hey, look who it is. Kazi. He's here for the GameThinkTalk. Normally what we do is we talk with another member of GameThinkTalk team, Matthew Hayes, Matthew Owen, talk about games we've been playing, but I decided to do something a little different because it's been a really fun week for news. We're going to be talking about what's happening with PewDiePie, what's happening with Destiny 2, what's happening with a bunch of games. So let's tear into it. Destiny 2 is incredibly successful. In case you didn't know, they had the largest ever day one sales globally for a PlayStation Store. Of course, that's a sort of a weird way to put it. Corey Lavoie says, yes, don't watch it on the stream. Would absolutely not recommend it. Thank you very much, Corey. So the original Destiny was the biggest new console video game franchise launch in history. That's a very specific stat, of course. The biggest new console video game franchise launch. So does that mean, what's a franchise? Did it only qualify for that because they announced they were going to do a second game, or is that just any game? I mean, the way we are right now, we have so many games of existing IPs, Assassin's Creed, Halo, all the same games are coming out, Call of Duty. So, Destiny was definitely one of the biggest new ones that was coming out. So you can see why the original one was super successful. But guess what? Destiny 2 surpassed the original's records for engagement. Hopefully, I'm assuming that means concurrent or simultaneous users and not just people that they reach through ad sales. And digital sales is the other big one. So Destiny 2 surpassed the original's records for not only engagement, but digital sales in its launch week. Corey Lavoie saying, oh my god, not the PewDiePie thing. Well, we won't be really getting into it too much. There's just one thing I wanted to talk about that has to do with the DMCA strikes and what Firewatch co-founder, I think Mr. Vaninem, had is doing, and with that strike, what that could mean for YouTube moving forward. And a precedent is going to be set, and I think Google's trying really hard not to do it, but they're trying not. I think Google's trying to stay out of it. They're hoping it's going to blow over, but it could be something serious happening. So Activision CEO Eric Hirshberg is obviously happy with the record engagement as well. With franchise pre-order records broken and record day one performance on the PlayStation Store, it's exciting to see engagement at the highest ever week one concurrency for the franchise. Destiny 2 is off to a strong start as the #1 console gaming launch week of the year to date. Some more very specific stats. With the PC version yet to ship, Destiny 2 sets the stage for being one of the biggest video game entertainment events of the year. That's right, there's some more very, very specific stats for you. It's the biggest video game entertainment event. Like E3, that was kind of an entertainment event, but not as many people went to E3 as Destiny 2. But what about all the people that they reached on Twitch and on YouTube? So I guess we're not counting that. I mean, if you're going to go around saying video game entertainment event, you were just instantly discrediting yourself from it. You're making your own statement false. Here's another quote. For the third year in a row, Destiny is the #1 console-only game viewed on Twitch by minutes watched. More specific stats. Destiny 2, including its 2 betas, had more than 600 million minutes watched on Twitch before the raid, a fan favorite endgame 6-player gameplay experience started. The raid, called Leviathan, went live for players on the 13th of September and immediately shot to the #1 position on Twitch based on total concurrent viewers. So there you go. Destiny 2 is super popular. Of course it is. Destiny 1 had built up a huge following. Destiny 2 is a refined version of that, and they've got so much momentum from that. It's a great thing. Looks like people are really enjoying it. We have a review on our site written by Matthew Owen, and he talked about it on our last GameThinkTalk show as well. PewDiePie's first DMCA strike from Campo Santo. You lose your account. According to YouTube, they'll delete it at 3 strikes. They don't just delete your account. They delete all the videos you've made, and they make it impossible for you to get that back. That's what they say in their policy. How do you get a strike? Well, for violating copyright. So what happened was Felix PewDiePie Yellberg, probably Yellberg based on him yelling into a camera. He used the N-word in a stream. He was playing PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, I believe. He was playing with a friend, not on an open chat. He was just chatting with a friend. It was a tense moment. He was trying to shoot at a guy far away, and he blurted out I believe he said an effing N-word. but obviously the real versions of that. And then sort of laughed and said, sorry, but this thing is happening. So PewDiePie addressed the DMCA strike, and he said, it's a pretty big deal. If I get more than 3 of them, my channel will shut down. I think he's wrong about that. Actually, if you look at YouTube's policy, it's actually just 3. It's like baseball. Here's the actual rule in writing. If your account accumulates 3 strikes, YouTube will cancel all of your accounts and remove all of your videos. Now, the only way to remove a strike, according to Google and YouTube, is to send a formal counter notice. So this, the original strike went up from Vananum, co-founder of Campo Santo. He said, we're filing a DMCA takedown of PewDiePie's Firewatch content, that's their game, and any future Campo Santo games. There's a bit of leeway you have to have with the internet when you wake up every day and make video games. There's also a breaking point. This is all Vananum saying this. Another tweet, he said, I'm sick of this child getting more and more chances to make money off of what we make. He also tweeted, he's worse than a closeted racist. He's a propagator of despicable garbage that does real damage to the culture around this industry. Another tweet, I'd urge other developers and will be reaching out to folks much larger than us to cut him off from the content that has made him a millionaire. So according to the YouTube law, there are 3 ways to resolve a copyright strike. Number 1, you wait for it to expire. A copyright strike will expire after 90 days as long as you complete copyright school. So he's going to have to attend some probably online classes or something. He's going to have to talk to somebody from YouTube, do that kind of thing. This is probably the one that Google and YouTube want the most to happen. They just want this to go away. The internet churns through news really fast. The more you talk about it, the more it stays around. They're going to hope for it to just die out. Number 2, you can get a retraction. You can contact the person who claimed your video as a copyright and ask them to retract their claim of copyright infringement. So maybe, but based on the inflammatory statements that Vananum had said on Twitter that I just read out to you, I wouldn't imagine that he's going to do that. I can't speak for him or PewDiePie on what they're going to do here, but I really doubt that Vananum is going to retract that. Number 3, your option is submit a counter notification. If your video was mistakenly removed because it was misidentified as infringing or qualifies as a potential fair use, you may wish to submit a counter notification. So this one he can't. I wouldn't imagine he could do a counter notification because this doesn't have to do with the reason why Vananum put in the claim. Whether this has nothing to do with what he actually said in terms of the law. The law is just saying that he's playing their game, so they can submit the strike. Now, option 1 seems to be the most likely one, as it really takes the least amount of effort. But it would be. The thing is, it's not that tough right now for a few other game developers. I mean, think of the thousands of games that PewDiePie has played and how many people could easily add in a couple strikes. And then what happens? He could have 10 strikes tomorrow. Anybody could, really. So what does YouTube do then? This isn't just some small person they can look like the hero and get rid of. He's the biggest moneymaker for YouTube on YouTube. They make a percentage of the money that he makes. He is the biggest, bigger than anyone, and he's consistent, and he's young. He's going to keep going. He's their cash cow. He's the face of YouTube. Whether they like it or not, he's their number 1 guy. So they're going to have to set a precedent. I think there's no way in hell that they're not going to delete his account. They're not going to stop his account. He could get 1,000 strikes tomorrow, and they're not going to be stopping his account from doing anything. He would have to be outrageously. He would just have to go. I mean, what we're talking about right now, him using the N-word, in whether he's doing it in an ironic way, however he's meaning to do this, whether you agree with it or not, there's no way that Google or YouTube is going to get rid of him based on how he's done it now. He's even put out an apology. It's sort of a 50-50 apology in a way, of explaining why he did it, and then maybe giving a few excuses here and there, saying things like, it's the heat of the moment, and this kind of stuff. Let's check in with the chat for a second. Nico Bellich is saying PewDiePie said the N-word. Chris is going to sleep. Kazi says, why is it fine when iDub says the N-word, and what about with the intent it was said with? Corey Lavoie says there's nothing formal that he can use to counter that. He said it and that's that. Nico Bellic says people choose to be offended by the N-word. I think of it as just a word. Corey Lavoie says yes, and there's nothing that can be done. The rules are set in place, and even if people choose to be or not to be offended, it's still the rules they set in place because of said people. Kazi says, but how is it a copyright strike? Corey Lavoie says, copyright strike. I don't know. And Corey follows that up with, they'll never get rid of him. His fans would all have to leave and unsubber him so he becomes irrelevant. Then they can remove him. How is it a copyright strike? It's because he's basically any game maker can file a copyright strike for anyone playing their games on YouTube, which is a huge amount of the material and the content that goes up there. I mean, look at with Twitch and YouTube gaming. So that is not going to... That's where the problem is, and that's where YouTube and Google have not really set any kind of precedent. Is it not? That becomes the big argument. Is it not fair use? And the argument with fair use is that there has to be a certain percentage of it. The majority of the content you're putting out needs to be of your own. For example, if we look at somebody doing a reaction video where they just put a very small version like I'm doing, and they have somebody else's video playing, and they just sort of sit there and do a reaction, I wouldn't call that fair use, because the majority of that content that is making it interesting is the actual original video in place. If you have somebody like PewDiePie adding commentary through a game, I think you could argue whether it's fair use or not, because people are watching him because they enjoy his personality. They enjoy what he's adding to it. Maybe they would never care about any of the games that he's playing. Maybe not. I think that he's popular enough that he's proven that his personality alone is what's drawing these people in. So in that case, you could say that's fair use. But then what do you do? Do you just say, well, if you're popular enough, then you can get away with anything, and that would be that? And that's just for the fair use, and not to mention racial slurs or an N-word. I mean, we're getting down to semantics of it. This is obviously an issue. We're not going to get into the N-word here, because I'm not qualified to talk about that. You know, in the chat, whatever you guys are talking about, please don't spell it out, obviously. That'll get you kicked out of here. But we can talk about what is happening with PewDiePie, what is going to happen with YouTube. The main thing for me is that I think they need to set down a definition of what exactly is fair use. What is Google and YouTube going to do about this? A relatively very small game developer, Campo Santo, put out a DMCA strike. Lots of inflammatory comments about PewDiePie on Twitter. And it went through. So this is the big thing, is that one of them already went through, and that was very, very easy. So my main point is that how easy would it be for you tomorrow to wake up and there's 25 strikes against them? Or they could be going off and just knocking off just about anybody. Now, Vanadum from Campo Santo admitted that he has made a lot of money, probably from PewDiePie and from other streamers, and that he loves streamers and he likes the Let's Play community. He has nothing against people streaming the games. That's why he's never filed a claim before. He just doesn't like what PewDiePie has done here. So Kazi brings up a good point. Do they want him to be their number one? I think that right now it's all about money. I mean, often I look at YouTube's business model and I think, how are they funding this thing? I mean, they have ads, but so many people use ad block. The amount of room they constantly have to have up. I mean, you guys could, all of us could just start uploading hundreds of gigs every day to YouTube, constantly, continuously, and just streaming like crazy. And I think we're already seeing where we've been streaming on YouTube pretty heavily, and we've noticed it being down, not consistently, but more often than not, and not something I expect from YouTube, where we're not able to access the dashboard to edit the live video. Sometimes we can stream, sometimes we can't, sometimes it crashes. And that's happened maybe, I don't know, almost 10 times. No, maybe like, I'd say like a good 7 times, where when I want to stream, I'm not able to access the dashboard. I just get a page not found, or I get some kind of error. So you'd have to wonder, like, YouTube is, I mean, Google is obviously one of the biggest companies in the world, but they still are smart and they still want to make money. So they're not going to get rid of PewDiePie because he's just such a large percentage of what people are watching. Kazi says, that fair use? Really? So it comes down to, that's the gray area. We don't really know what it is. So far, we've just progressed in a way is that it's just kind of not been talked about. And the publishers and the developers, for the most part, are happy that they view it as free advertising in a way. It's like getting a song played on the radio. If you have your game played by a big person on Twitch, especially if you're an indie game, you're a smaller game, that is going to be good for growth. However, I mean, there are instances where a very short narrative story game, like one of the ones we had played on here, I can't even remember its name because we only played it for 2 hours and we have never touched it or talked about it again. But, you know, would you want to play that after you've already seen the story, after you've already seen myself play it and us all talk about it? So in a way, that could really hurt a smaller game like that, and I could see why they wouldn't want their game on there. Nintendo, we've seen what they've done. They've gone for revenue sharing. They've gone for complete blocks, copyright strikes, all kinds of things. Nintendo does not like the idea of it. They haven't bought in, so it's become just they're letting the developers and the publishers either let people get away with it, agree with it, or do something about it. But it seems like right now, it's really not that hard to get these strikes out there. Nico, he has millions of subs, so the chance of him getting banned off YouTube is unlikely. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. There's no way he is going to be getting knocked off YouTube. Absolutely no way. Unless he comes out and he is 10 times worse. I mean, if he goes out there and he's wearing a sheet on his head, and he's just screaming just terrible racist nonsense, then they're going to get rid of him if they can look like the hero. But right now, they're just going to sit and they're just going to wait. And wait and wait. They're not going to be... This is too big for them to make any kind of rash decisions. Kazi says, true. So do you think it would be right to strike you, Matt? I wouldn't disagree. I wouldn't disagree at all. If somebody wanted to strike it, it's their content. I mean, I make music. And if people were using my music and reacting to it or doing a commentary on it, I would want some kind of revenue share or something from it. And... you know, maybe that's something we need to look at ethically moving forward. We don't really make any money off of this YouTube channel, so I feel like all we're doing is providing advertising for these games. I mean, we've had a healthy percentage of people that are in the chat when we're playing these games that say, oh, I want to play this game now. I want to play it again. I'm going to go buy it again or whatever. So we can see where the good is, but like I mentioned before, when it's a small narrative game, I can see why somebody would absolutely not want us to play this game on the channel and give away the ending. It's just like putting a movie on your channel. And it's something that's only designed to have the best experience the first time through. Corey Lavoie, the one thing I've noticed as well is a lot of big Twitch streamers that get a ban from viewers hop over to YouTube to continue streaming and make more viewers. So when you're saying they get a ban from viewers, if someone doesn't use Twitch and mainly uses YouTube, it helps them earn more followers. One example that comes to mind is Ice Poseidon. YouTube is now also going through the monetization crap as well, and everyone is suffering. Exactly, and when you see YouTube making sweeping changes to monetization, then obviously their eye is on the bottom line, like any big company is. But if that is something that is becoming noticeable to a lot of people, and these I mean, we haven't noticed it because we're not a big money-making channel. We make probably nothing at this point, you know, as we're still growing. However, you know, if you were used to be making $50, $100, $1,000 from each video, and all of a sudden that's getting cut by any sort of percentage, 10%, 50%, which is what you're hearing from some people, or some people aren't even getting paid for some of these videos that are coming out. And the big problem is that a lot of people, when they're trying to contact YouTube, if they're not a huge channel that is able to make a big video that gets a lot of attention, they're not going to be looked at. There's too much. YouTube might have grown too fast for what they're able to do with it. You know, we see that with the lots of outages as they switch over to YouTube Live and YouTube Gaming. So money is always going to be an important thing for a company of this size, and because of what's happening with monetization, then even more so, we're not going to be seeing them get rid of PewDiePie. And I'm not saying they need to at all, but he's just remember, he's a young guy who's playing games, and he's saying things that you do hear on the internet. I'm not saying that that's right or that's wrong. He's representing a certain type of people that are out there. And you know, it's there can be a danger of saying things ironically and thinking that it's just a joke, and you might think of it, and I've been guilty of it before, where you say something and you think it's funny because it is so stupid that anyone would mean it with malicious intent, and you think of that as ironic. But in the end, it's just better to take them completely out of the vocabulary because you don't want to perpetuate it. Nico Bellic, YouTube isn't exactly making themselves look like a fair platform. No, it's a meritocracy. You get the most based on how many views you have and how useful you are to YouTube, which is exactly what's happening. However, how fair are they that Campo Santo is just minuscule in comparison to PewDiePie? I think they sold maybe 1 million copies. I mean, he has 65 million subscribers. So he is crapping out millions of... He's making more money than all of Campo Santo. That's for sure. Than all of Campo Santo will make combined for the rest of their lives. But they still had the power to have a strike against him. Kazi. Also, PewDiePie isn't the money heavyweight anymore. Advertisers, understandably, don't use him as an advertisement platform. That's true. We also had what was going on with YouTube where the advertisers were flagging certain things and they were stopping... They were... what were they doing? They were flagging different content. So, for example, a lot of wrestling channels weren't getting their normal ad revenue because the advertisers were flagging them, not advertising with them, or not giving them this ad content. And it sort of came down in maybe a shady way where maybe ads were still running on the videos, but people weren't getting any money for them. It wasn't very clear. There wasn't a lot of transparency with that. Kazi, I think that the WSG has caused the issue, not PewDiePie's childish antics. Well, I mean, we're at a point now where a lot of this is being brought to the front. I mean, words like, say, retard. It wasn't too long ago that people were spouting that out willy-nilly. There are a lot of words now that people are just becoming more sensitive to, and it's because we're being, especially on the internet, we're exposed to basically almost every type of people instantly, and you're getting instant feedback from every type of people. And we're starting to have like we're in the middle of a stage where there is a big backlash, where people are rethinking what they should say, and some people are lashing back out at that and saying they don't want to change their words and thoughts on it. I guess it's tough to say it. I mean, it's easy for me to say, well, you can call me a cracker, honky scum, white devil, anything. In fact, my dad was a Hungarian refugee, and honky, which is a term that black people and others have used against white people, it was actually derived from Hungarians, and I think maybe it had to do with how they spoke. Maybe we sound like we're honking geese of some kind. So it's easy for me to say like, oh, go ahead and just say it. It's a word, but it obviously has so much of a minuscule connotation to what the N-word has. I mean, it's a horrific time in North American history. Absolutely horrific. I could never even begin to explain how horrific it was right now. But, you know, if you look around in society, why is that word still around? It's still being used by people, and it's being used sometimes in friendly ways, friendly terms, for a long time. And that's not for me to say who should use it or who shouldn't at all. I don't use it anymore, and people that use it are going to suffer probably a big backlash depending on who you are and your position, and it's probably just best for most to not use it. But if you do, then it's just going to be up to you to deal with what comes your way. Corey Lavoie, going back on the PewDiePie incident, why is it that YouTube only cares? If that word is said in a stream, but in a regular video by anyone, it's perfectly fine and nothing gets done about it. Why is it YouTube only cares if that word is said in a stream, but in a regular video by anyone, it's perfectly fine? Do you mean in a stream as opposed to a video, or do you just mean by, say, PewDiePie? I mean, people care because you put his name and the N-word in a headline and you're going to get clicks. And the internet has become about getting a lot of clicks really, really fast. And it's not become about, it's gone away from any sort of integrity, really. You could put anything up as a headline, and it just has to get enough clicks to get your advertising revenue for the day, whether people agree with what's in the article, not whether with what in the article is written with any sort of research or any sort of substance is not important anymore. So that story is going to spread like wildfire. His influence on younger people is going to make that a big deal. even if they were all 30-year-olds, for him to have 65 million subscribers and be the biggest person on YouTube and making $7 million a year, it's going to make that a big deal. So it's going to be... So I guess for your question, why is the YouTube only cares? I don't think YouTube cared until everybody else cared, and then it became a big deal. Niko Bellic. I don't know if people here tune into the news about Rockstar Games, but a couple months ago, Rockstar banned Open 4, which meant people who did GTA 4 to GTA 5 mods couldn't put food on their tables. There you go. So you've got people that were doing mods on a game, on a game that was created by somebody else, and they were making money off this, and then Rockstar decided to ban it. Now, I say this all the time for an example of... If you are spending a lot of your time and you want to recreate something, let's say, like you want to recreate Metroid. Remember the Metroid Game Boy remake people were doing? And I think that's a waste of time, because all it takes is for somebody like Nintendo to say, don't do that. You can't make any money off of that. And you might have spent a year or two of your free time pouring resources, time, money into creating this thing. What you should do is do what Eric Barone of Concerned Ape did. Don't make a Harvest Moon remaster. Make Stardew Valley. Take everything good from Harvest Moon, add some new characters, some new story, but take all the basic gameplay mechanics and become a millionaire from that. If, of course, in the, in the 1 in a million shot chance that your game takes off. Game like Undertale. Now, Undertale actually is a lot more inventive than Stardew Valley was. Stardew Valley was a refinement of what Harvest Moon had done, with a few new things here and there. I think Undertale went far beyond its Earthbound-inspired roots, its 16-bit JRPG roots, and did things that no game has ever done, and that's why it has such a passionate following. So I would say, for the people that are doing the mods of GTA 4 to 5, make your own, make your own game in that way. You can't bank on feeding your family off of these mods. It's something that is going to be, that could be here then and then gone tomorrow. Anything in the entertainment industry is not ironclad. If you're a dancer, if you're a football player, if you are a singer, you could lose your voice, you could break your leg, your team could get rid of you. The sport could just not be popular anymore. These are not essential things. They're luxuries, and they move with time. PewDiePie could stop making things tomorrow. He could stop getting $7 million a year. Maybe YouTube just goes away. Maybe the internet goes away. Kazi said Wall Street Journal for WSJ, and then he guesses SAWs too. Well, what if PewDiePie was black, though? Would that be fine then? So your ethnicity dictates what you can and can't say, or should intent dictate what you can or can't say? And Cookie Savage responded to that. Kazi, it's a story of history of society. Kazi says, I know, but I think we should treat people the same regardless of their race. I don't think I've thought enough of that to, off the cuff, do a stream of consciousness thought and an answer to that. I think that's... We're talking about things that can... are very, very sensitive. And I think I would rather think about it a little bit more before just spouting off an answer to something like that as a white person on a live stream. It is very difficult. Difficult question. Cookie Savage also says, hi, Matt. Have a nice day. It's 5:10 a.m. there. So time to go to work. She's got to go sell some baguettes in France. And no, that wasn't racist. That's literally what she does in France. I mean, because it is, like we've mentioned, a horrific history. And I mean, there have been some schools of thought that say continually using the N-word as an African American, as a black person, is empowering. To take back the word. Of course, I'm just repeating things I've heard from that side of the equation. Personally, I think if you don't want a word to exist, you do stop using it. And it is being glamorized in mainstream music. in mainstream entertainment. You know, you see TV, movies. And that's going to keep it alive. And will that contribute to it still having power? Will that eventually dilute the power of it? It definitely hasn't. It's definitely remained, in its negative sense, seems like as powerful as ever. And it's a shame that something like that exists. But it's not going to go away the way that it's being used now. It's a hard question. That's about all I can say on that. I'm not in a position to really talk about what it means. I mean, my personal stance behind it is just... It's just one of those things. There was a negotiation that happened. Black people had a really terrible time in America. Really terrible is a huge understatement. A horrific time. One of the most horrific times out of humans in history. And that should be respected. So if they want to use that word, that's kind of a part of the deal. That's a part of the deal with it. And it just becomes something that is, all right, that's yours. You do with it what you wish. We won't do that anymore. God, it's such a heavy talk. Now we have to go back to talking about some games, unless you guys wanted to continue talking about that. Let's just pound off some of these news stories at this moment. Thank you for joining and bringing the conversation, guys. So that's what's going to happen with PewDiePie. I mean, my main point is that Google or YouTube needs to step up and do something about this, because they've given Campo Santo a lot of power here, potentially, with one strike. If this sets off a snowball effect, he probably knows enough people right now, allegedly, I would imagine, Campo Santo, they're in the game industry. They could be sitting around right now saying, man, that PewDiePie guy, let's bring him down tomorrow. You, all of us will all send out DMCA strikes. And then we're going to see what Google and YouTube is going to do. And it's going to be nothing. So I'm hoping they do, so that they will take away that power and start addressing fair use in a way. Who is this Santo person? Campo Santo is a developer co-founded by Vananum. Scott Vananum? I don't know his first name. They made the game Firewatch. Campo Santo's the company. Vananum is the co-founder, and he's the guy that filed the strike. He makes the decisions for Campo Santo because they are a small, independent company. Nico Belic says, a team of modders remade the original Half-Life and Valve approved of it, but when Rockstar banned Open 4, they were biting the hand that fed them. Well, Valve is very, very open with their platform, and that is a bit more sort of PC, computer-like of them. Valve's always been very, very open, and they've embraced it. And, I mean, you see what's the huge popularity of... I mean, if we look at... Okay, PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds just became the #1 most concurrently played game on Steam of all time. They just broke 1.3 million people playing at once. Previous high was held by Dota, 1.29 million, and Dota had cracked a million, went down below, went back up, hit 1.29 million. Now they're down around 800,000, 900,000 or so. But the point is, those are the two most popular of all time, and they were both mods of games that turned into their own property. Now, so I think it comes down to that mods... I mean, if you look at art, if you look at music, say, in the 1950s, when you had a lot of blues, a lot of these songs were basically interchangeable. You would have the same chord changes, the same riffs and the solos. If you listen to a lot of salsa music, or if you basically any music, any art, it's all going to be derivative of something before it. It's very, very hard to come up with something completely original that would still appeal in any way to people, or at least a large group of people. I mean, you look at shooters. Though that just becomes a genre where a lot of these shooters might be incredibly similar to each other, but it's really about how you put your personality into it. What makes Stardew Valley original enough apart from Harvest Moon? having different character names and different storylines? And does it provide a different sort of gameplay loop? Is it because they had mining? Is it because they had combat? I wouldn't be surprised if Harvest Moon, if I was the judge in that case, and Harvest Moon said they blatantly stole our blueprint. Nobody was making this kind of game. Nobody made this kind of game after us, and they blatantly went after it. How could you not give that to the Harvest Moon team? They just, Harvest Moon, the series, has been, I would say, mismanaged, or has at least gotten so far away from what made it great. That's what prompted the creation of Stardew Valley. Corey Lavoie says, it's different productions teams that made both games. Each one has different production values. Yep. I mean, different teams. Which one are you talking about exactly there, Corey Lavoie? Could you clarify that one? Nico Bellic says, I mean, Counter-Strike was a Half-Life mod, but it became its own huge thing. Well, there you go. But what they did with that mod is they didn't just have Half-Life, the original game, but everyone's wearing a funny hat. I don't think that that's fair use. And I don't think that somebody should make money off of Half-Life, but everyone wears a funny hat. But when you take the models and the engine from Half-Life, and then you change that into a team-based shooter with interesting rules and dynamics, and it's the rules of play, it's those maps, that's what makes Counter-Strike interesting, and that's what makes it worth money, and why people want to play it. Has nothing to do with the original Half-Life at all. It just happens to use that. I mean, if you look at the Unreal Engine, you're going to have a lot of the same lighting effects. There's going to be a lot of shared tools, a lot of shared things, but it's what they do with it. It's the story that they tell. It's what they do. What do you do to make the game interesting? What makes it interesting? If you look at, say, a song from Sam Smith and Tom Petty. Now, Tom Petty's song, "'Cause I Won't Back Down," and Sam Smith's "Stay With Me," those notes are identical in terms of timing, in terms of like the pitch, where they're changing. The intervals is what they're called. That's the word I was searching for. Now, the rest of the Sam Smith song could be completely different. But the part that makes that song make money, because it is a pop song designed to make money off of a catchy chorus, are those three notes. And those three notes could not be any closer to what's going on in Tom Petty's song. And Tom Petty sued, and now he's a co-writer on that. If you look at in the Caribbean, in Jamaica, there will be a lot of poor reggae artists that will share a beat. They'll all use the same beat, but it's about the lyrics that go over top of that beat. And that's what makes it original, is what people are adding to it. But really, then you have an argument of what really makes it the most interesting. Is it the lyrics, the melody, or is it that reggae beat? Are people just dancing to any of them? But that becomes the gray area of it. Corey Lavoie saying Half-Life was Valve, GTA 4 was Rockstar. Corey Lavoie, I think when he was saying it's different production teams that made both games, each one has different production values, as in Valve and Rockstar. Nico Bellic, Valve hasn't made a game in over 10 years, and Rockstar is milking GTA Online. And it is interesting. It is very interesting. GTA 5, this online, has been... It keeps that game in the charts because people are still playing it online. And the mods are making it interesting. So in a way, I think it's very fair for somebody to get paid if the mod is providing a new basic gameplay experience, like we went over before. It's not just Nico Bellic in a hat or Nico Bellic in GTA 5. It's, what are you going to do? Are you going to come up with a way to play soccer in Grand Theft Auto, which isn't even an original idea, or a way to make heist missions, or a game where you clean up pools, or whatever's going on there? Is the person adding enough artistic intent to make it fun, is what it comes down to. Corey Lavoie, think of it this way. The only reason GTA Online is making money is because of the people. Video game companies only make money from the people. Well, yeah, but in the broadest sort of general sense, I mean, every business makes money because of people, because there has to be somebody there to pay out some money but an online game does require a user base. And this is why often the argument for free-to-play games is that make it free-to-play so that more people will play it, because nobody wants to go on and play in a dead community. You're not going to go on and play against 9 people where you're not finding games. That's not going to work. So in a sense, the people that are playing the game for free could make you more money by making it fun enough that more people are going to play. And now all of a sudden, the people that are buying cosmetic items and that are actually spending money on the microtransactions, they wouldn't have been there if you didn't have the army of free players that might pay nothing. But they are basically advertising your game. They're making it fun for other people to play, the people that will actually spend that kind of money. GTA is not free though. And when you buy GTA 5, you get a single player game that's huge and you get to play online. You're not just getting this online piece. So they provide enough of an experience that is worth the money. People stay and play. I actually don't know a lot about GTA 5 online. What exactly is going on in there? What are people... As far as I can understand it, look, in GTA 3, people in GTA like Vice City, San Andreas, probably GTA 4, people would often just not even play the single player. You'd turn it on, you'd put in cheat codes, and you just go mess around. So I have a feeling that GTA Online now is people going on and instead of putting in cheat codes, now you're paying money, real money, to get that quick money so you don't have to go grind for a rocket launcher. You've established that I could spend a half an hour of in-game time to get a weapon or get a helicopter or something, or maybe hours. My time's worth more than that. So instead of me spending an hour trying to get these certain weapons or items, I can just spend real money, $1 or $2, whatever things cost, and that is worth it more to me. This is why games like Candy Crush make money. They trick you into waiting and make you think that your time is worth more than the small amount of money you're going to throw their way. That's what they want. It's because, Corey says, it's because some people want to get an edge over people who only play said video game for hours on end. A working person, let's say. Okay. GTA Online isn't much. Most people complain about everyone being a bad sport. You can't walk down the street without anybody killing you for no reason. I've never played GTA Online, but in my mind, it's just chaos. Just people... Basically, when you are bored in a GTA game and you go around and you start punching everything and blowing everything up, except you're now the innocent bystander with people who might have more than you, that might be spending money and have rocket launchers and are more powerful than you. That's why I've never really been drawn to play it. Rockstar makes people pay for shark cards with real money in order to stay at the top. So what do you get with that? You just get more weapons, you get more items. Basically, pay to win. That's why I don't like any kind of microtransaction affecting you having a better weapon or anything that's going to give you a competitive advantage. I don't even like that with progression systems. And that's a huge problem I find with the Call of Duty type games. For example, I went to play Battlefront. GTA isn't the cheat engine like it used to be. In-game currency. Gotcha. Oh, in-game currently. You know, you go to play Star Wars Battlefront and you start off, you're level 1, you're excited, and you get into a standoff with somebody. Maybe you get the drop on them. You squeeze off the first couple shots first, yet they kill you. You look at what their character had. He's got the level 5 gun. He's got the level 10 gun. Or she's got the level 20 gun. They can shoot faster. They have a better grenade. They've got a jetpack, and they can fly through the air. They can use a shield. You've got the weak gun. And this is something we've seen... Call of Duty Modern Warfare exploded with this. They basically took the RPG mechanics of leveling up your player, of getting abilities, getting perks, of getting better guns, getting silencers, suppressors, giving your gun better range or like faster rate of fire, making your player be able to run faster, endless running, or being able to melee strike from further away. You can now, so if you're playing somebody in Call of Duty, they can perform, what was it, Commando or whatever it was, the one where you could melee somebody from further away than somebody who had just bought the game and just started. Now, if you add microtransactions to that, and you give the player a choice, well, you could spend 20 hours leveling up, or you could just give us $5. Now, what do you want to do with... now, nobody would work 20 hours for $5 in a first world country. So you are easily going to... If you can convince people, and in a competitive game, that's very easy to do when people are losing and they're getting frustrated because they know that maybe their skill is there, but that person there has the gun. And I'm going to spend $2 and I'm going to get it. And I'm going to save myself the 20 hours of time. And then I'm going to have fun because I've already invested and bought this game. Niko Belic's COD is a whole other story. So maybe I need to learn a bit more about this GTA Online. But it's... obviously, I'm going to assume, Niko Belic, you're a pretty big fan of GTA. And it is pretty close to your heart with this GTA 4 to 5. So please, any other comments you have about it, put in the chat so we can... learn about that. That's what this community is all about. Learning from each other. Kazi, and then add microtransactions to getting better guns. Exactly. That's what they want to do. On a lighter note, Stardew Valley creator is going to be making a new game, and it's going to be based in the same universe. He's going to... So, Barone has recently stated he will soon be starting a new solo project. It's going to be in the same universe. Now, Chucklefish, the publisher, is also working on a very similar looking game to Stardew Valley, pixel art. It's going to be a magic school RPG simulator. Basically, Stardew Valley meets Harry Potter. But Concerned Ape, Eric Baroni, creator of Stardew Valley, said, just to clarify, he tweeted this, I'm not involved in the magic school game or any other Chucklefish project. My next game will be another solo undertaking. He said in a follow-up post, it won't be Stardew Valley 2, but it does take place in the same universe. That's all I'll say for now. I don't want to get ahead of myself. All right. Also, Overwatch is having a free weekend, September 22nd to the 25th. That's going to be on PC, Xbox, PS4. You can level up, get loot boxes, customize your heroes. All heroes are available, all maps, all modes. And if you buy the game after, you can keep any progress. That's going to start 11 a.m. Pacific time, September 22nd on all platforms. Overwatch, fun with friends. And if you're competitive, you're going to have a lot of fun with that game. Forza is going to be 95 gigabytes at launch, 45 gigabytes on the Blu-ray. An extra 50 gigabytes will be an optional download on launch day. That will contain new events and rewards in that extra 50 gigabytes. That probably will include the Forza Drivers Cup, which is basically the single-player campaign. The Nintendo Switch getting 6 new games as of September 15th. NBA 2K18. Going to be $65. They're going to have obviously a Legend and a Legend Gold edition. Those are $100 and $150. Who buys these things? I was standing behind a guy in GameStop. Well, EB Games here, but GameStop, a lot of other places. And he went to buy a game. You can tell he probably just comes out and buys a game once a month. He had his kid with him. Bought it. And the guy said, do you want the extra edition? I think he might have asked what was in it. And the guy said, oh, you got a new skin. He goes, yeah, whatever. Spent the extra $20. I think it ended up being with tax and the special edition. Probably got the insurance on the disc, scratch proof. And this guy ended up paying about $110, $120 for this game. For some... So people don't even care. I was thinking, man, you could have got an extra indie game with that. Or you basically almost could have got like 2 full games. What are you doing? Oh, yeah. And Corey Lavoie is saying NBA 2K18 is bad from what I've heard. I don't know why they would... What they're doing with these sports games. They put out too many of them. They don't have time to make them better. All they can do is take an option out and then put it back the next year. Niko Belic. Also, when does The Last of Us 2 come out? I don't think there's a set date for that, unless that is going to be, what, late 2018, maybe? I think that they've been... They don't have too much done with that. I don't think that there is a release date, is there? What'd they say? No earlier than... I don't think there is one. It's sort of like a 2018 they're hoping for. I could be off about that. I wouldn't imagine it's coming out till maybe holiday 2018, maybe early 2019. Naughty Dog is in no rush. They don't care about the holidays as much as somebody else needs to. They are just fine on their own, and this is going to be huge for them. GTA was my first game, says Nico Bellic, and it sucks that it's just become microtransactions. Same with God. You know what I'm worried about is every time I look at the game charts and I see that GTA 5 is still killing it, outselling so many games. It's always in the top 10 every month. I worry that, oh my God, Rockstar, who made some of the greatest single-player games of all time, is probably going to be influenced by that. I mean, they're going to be going forward and, I mean, they're going to incorporate online stuff. Red Dead Redemption is probably going to be online co-op with your friends, which I think is a great idea, actually. It's basically going to be Destiny on horses. I think that'd be pretty fun. Red Dead Redemption is super fun, kind of a meditative game, so if you're playing it with some friends, I think that would be better, actually. NBA has always been the same, except for the graphics, says Nico Bellic. Basically, I mean, they've gotten... I find they go more and more simulator heavy, which kind of takes some of the fun out of it. But if you're a hardcore sports fan, you probably do want it to be as simulation as possible. I find with sports games is that when they're too much of a simulation, it can kind of take the skill out of it. Because if you're playing a hockey game, for example, and the goalie is so good in real life, and in the game they've modeled this, it doesn't really matter what you're going to do. You're probably going to lose because it's a game where one goal could be the difference of the game. Corey Laval, what are your thoughts on Final Fantasy 15 for the PC? Well, what is there to think about it? I mean, obviously they want to put it on every platform possible. They're probably going to push it and probably come out, try to get some 4K textures on there. November 29th, 2016. No, that was when the original one had come out. So, I mean, I'm glad it's going to be on as many systems as possible. Why was there a problem? Was there some sort of controversy with that? 2018 is going to be the release date on that. 4K and 8K. The Final Fantasy series has consistently been about pushing technology forward. Final Fantasy VII had better visuals than movies at the time. Better CGI visuals. Wait, that can't be true. What year did Toy Story come out? 95. All right. Well, it wasn't better than Toy Story. It wasn't better than Pixar. They did have cutting edge people working on the game, and it was definitely better than anything we'd seen in games at the time. They love that. They love pushing forward. Final Fantasy 8 and 9 were both beautiful. PS2 is a big step up. Final Fantasy 13, that whole series still looks fantastic. We stream this on this channel. It still looks good today. And it's played on a PS3. And it's an engine that was made 10 years ago when they started working on Final Fantasy 15. So they like to push things forward. I wouldn't be surprised if the next Final Fantasy game was in VR. Or AR. Or just some new level of technology that seems to really excite Square Enix. They like to do that with their flagship series, with their franchise. They like it to look good. They don't want to, which can be a problem because obviously the stories have been all over the map in the last couple releases. I mean, 13 was a mess. 13-2, killer story, but nobody played it because they were so disappointed by that mess that 13 was, even though it had great combat and at the heart of it had a good story. The storytelling overall was a jumbled mess. 4K and 8K, eh, Corey Lavoie? Yeah, they're in the arms race for visuals, and I wish they would focus a bit more on story. I understand that it feels like right now, like every game that comes out on a current gen console looks great. So just please, let's get over this resolution race, this visuals race, and just start making interesting game experiences again, please. Nico Bellic says Red Dead Redemption 2 multiplayer would sound awesome. I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. When you see that the silhouette of the Red Dead Redemption characters, and there's multiples of them, I think that means you're going to be playing with a gang, and because they are shadowed, I think that the whole point of it is that it's going to be you. They're trying to put you into the game. They sort of suggest that you're going to be telling this story. Imagine if Naughty Dog and Valve combined each other's forces. Imagine if Valve let Naughty Dog make a Half-Life game. How about that? Naughty Dog knows how to tell stories, and they know how to do spectacle. The thing with like Half-Life 3, for example, is that if you just made a really good Half-Life game, would that be enough? Half-Life 1 was revolutionary because in a time when it had come out, everybody was obsessed with CGI cutscenes, basically thanks to Final Fantasy VII. Narrative, cinematic experiences, how good can you make these pre-rendered visuals look? Half-Life was entirely told through first-person perspective, and that added to the immersion of it. All the dialogue was spoken by characters in-engine. Got louder if you went close to them. It got quieter if you walked away. You could miss things. You could miss part of the story. That works because that entire story could be told through his eyes. It never backed off and showed you anything else. Well, there were actually a couple exterior shots, but they like to keep it in that area. And Half-Life 2 played around with physics, the physics gun. In a sense, Half-Life is kind of like Final Fantasy. They like to push things. They like to play with tech. They like to be on the cutting edge. Naughty Dog as well is their facial capture and what they can do to get performances in games. The subtle movements on a character's face is, especially in Uncharted 4 and The Lost Legacy, the character models from Uncharted 4, not Chloe, she was rough, is astounding. So yeah, that'd be interesting. Let's have Naughty Dog make Half-Life 3, please. So yeah, Final Fantasy 15 on the PC. I think it's a natural fit. Do it 1 million K. Nico Bellic, if Naughty Dog did Half-Life, it would probably be in-game cutscenes and PS4 exclusive. Yeah, it would kind of go against what it was. But hey, if you're out there and you want to see Half-Life 3, make it. Don't call it Half-Life. Make it your own game. Make it different characters. Make it inspired by Half-Life. And you'll probably sell a lot of copies if it's a good game, if it's got good gameplay. This Switch, the Nintendo Switch, is going to get 6 new games as of September 15th. Right, we said NBA 2K18. Oh, those special editions are going to require an SD card, as it's actually bigger than the Switch hard drive can handle. And what had happened was that they could have made... I think that's incorrect, actually. This was reported on our site. What I had heard was that they could have... these cards that you put the Switch games on, you can make them 32 gigabytes size, which is huge, to hold a big game. But what's going to happen is that those are very, very expensive to manufacture, like maybe 40% more expensive. And when you're making a game, margins are not as big as you think. You have to give a lot of money to Nintendo. You have to pay money to, obviously, the physical manufacturing of it. Cards are more expensive to make than Blu-rays. And especially those 32 gigabyte cards can be 40% more. You have to pay money to, say, EB Games, GameStop, the retailer. Nico Bellic. I remember when the Wii could run most games better than the PS2. Well, that's true, but the Wii was competing against the PS3, was the thing. It's similar to the 3DS for playing any sort of game. You need an SD card for the save data. Yeah, I mean, it's cheap that Nintendo gave you this 32 gigabyte hard drive. Then, I mean, if you're going to own that thing for any length of time, anybody who buys a Switch is probably going to buy a bigger SD card. You're just going to go and get them. They're not that expensive. It's a shame that they didn't make the hard drive a little bit bigger, because everybody's going to have to buy one now. It's kind of like when you buy a Vita. You can't use the 8 gigabyte card. You got to go buy something bigger. But I think they were proprietary, weren't they? Because Sony's all about that. You got to use our special cards. So yeah, what they had done was with NBA 2K18, for the bigger size of the game, they just cheaped out. They put the game on the smaller cards, and they actually put right on the box, you're going to require an online connection and an SD card big enough to fit the rest of the game on here. So they're putting the onus on the player. You could buy the game, get home, not have the SD card because you didn't read the front of the cover. Maybe somebody bought it for you, maybe a parent for your Christmas present, and not be able to play it. Because they didn't want to put... They're basically passing the extra expense onto the consumer, but they don't want their game to cost more, because when you're looking at games on the shelf, if one game is, if they're all 60, 60, 60 and NBA 2K18 is 80, that's going to hurt sales. They would rather you just buy it and then figure it out on your own. Corey Lavoie, back in the day, 32 gigabytes was huge. Now with everything having high resolutions, DLC or whatnot, it's tiny. Absolutely. I mean, 500 gigabytes on my PS4 is incredibly small. I got to hook up an external hard drive to it. It's not a great solution because the PS4 likes to be in rest mode a lot of the time. It's doing updates. My hard drive is constantly spinning. I don't know why it's constantly doing all these stupid updates. Sometimes I'll turn off my PS4, then I turn it back on. It says the hard drive that you connected didn't shut down properly, or could be damaged. We need to scan it. It's not an elegant design. I wouldn't put any save data on there, but I wouldn't be surprised if it toasted my external hard drive that I plugged into it. 32 gigabytes is crazy that they only put that on there for the Switch. It's small. It's a tablet. I'm not expecting it to have a terabyte, but it could have had 64, could have had 128. I mean, basically anything that an iPad could have, or a cell phone. If a cell phone could have more built in, then they should have. Nobody's going to stick with just the 32 of the internal memory. I mean, even now, it seems kind of stupid that PS4 and Xbox One had only come with 500 gigabytes. It's very, very quickly, 1 terabyte is becoming the new standard. Now that I have that terabyte drive on top of it, I can take all the games I own, put them on there. Because you pick up so many games along the way now with PS Plus, with the Xbox Game Rewards accounts. So it's really easy to fill them up. I mean, and then there's sales all the time. So, I mean, for example, I bought The Order 1887 because it was $9. This was a game that looked beautiful, was one of the earlier titles on the PS4, and was criticized heavily for being too short. But $8. I'll play a really nice looking game that's really short. In fact, I love short games because I like to get a full experience out of it rather than start it up and play 50% of Assassin's Creed and never finish it, or less. Nico Belch, comparing the PS3 to the Wii is like having a canine fight a mouse. That's true. I don't have a lot of games on my PS4, so we don't get all the updates, says Nico Belch. That's why the Switch is so genius. Because ever since the Wii, Nintendo decided we're not going to make super powerful consoles anymore. We're going to make affordable consoles that are accessible, and our games are still going to look really good. The Wii was standard definition when the PS3 and Xbox 360 were HD, so Mario Galaxy looks good on its own, but when you compare it to anything else, it's super blurry. It's kind of hard to go back to now. The Wii U, I mean, was on par in some ways. Some ways it was more powerful than the PS3. Some ways it was weaker than the PS3. But the games that Nintendo made looked really, really gorgeous. You never look at Mario Kart 8, even Mario 3D World and some of those games. You don't look at them and say, oh, this system is weak. You look at them and go, this looks beautiful. And the Switch is doing that same thing. However, now we finally have the payoff of having a system be underpowered. If it's underpowered and all you can do with your Wii U is play in your bathroom, that's not a huge bonus. But if the system is a bit underpowered, but you can take it anywhere, that's finally where the technology meets the practicality and the utility of it. So the Switch is basically, I mean, you just put a Switch next to a Wii U tablet, and God, it looks like a child designed the Wii U. It looks like it's made for a child, the Wii U tablet, whereas the Switch looks like it's made for a sexy adult. Some other games coming out for the Switch. Robonauts, a colorful arcade shooter with gravity switching. You can play solo or multiplayer. $13.50. Neo Geo game, Spin Master, a 1993 side-scrolling action game. $8. Play with another person. Worldwide online leaderboard. How about a 16-bit roguelike, Quest of Dungeons? That's $8. How about a procedurally generated platformer called 36 Fragments of Midnight? Ooh, $3. $3. Procedurally generated doesn't get me excited unless... Oh, God. Playing an RPG where you can get endless missions that are procedurally generated, I think that's a good idea. What else we got here? Kingdom Building Sim. Kingdom New Lands. $15. Off-road kart racer, Beach Buggy Racing. $10. Never heard of any of these. And a meditative parallel puzzle game called Semi-Spheres, $10. You know what I say? Some consoles get the latest games. The Nintendo Switch gets the games latest. How about this? Okami HD coming to the PS4, Xbox One, PC. 4K support. The game originally released in 2006. It's going to be coming out everywhere December 12th, and then in Japan on the 13th. It's going to be $20. Only the PS4 gets the physical edition. All platforms get 4K if they have the requisite power. So I'm imagining PS4 Pro and Xbox One X, as well as PC, are going to be getting 4K. Crypt of the Necrodancer is coming to the Switch. Switch is going to have exclusive co-op on that and a new character. Crypt of Necrodancer, that's a fun procedurally generated game. If you haven't played it, it's a dungeon crawler using rhythm controls, hack and slash, procedurally generated roguelike, but you have to go to the beat of the music, and you can put in your own music as well, and you can set the tempo on it and how they count the tempo. So lots of fun with that game. That'd be a great one for the Switch. Excuse me. Here is another bit of news about Fallout New Vegas. Bit of news about a game that came out 10 years ago. In the chat, Nico Bellich, I have Uncharted Nathan Drake Collection, and it takes an hour for it to download. Well, those are big games. Those are big HD textures. I mean, that's the big thing, is that when we switched to the HD era of PS3 and the Xbox 360, the games had to get a lot bigger. They all of a sudden had to put a larger percentage of the development resources into visuals, which I think is horrible. Because that is coming out of gameplay. Now, there is a less concern about gameplay because there's just so much more work has to be put in to make it look really good. Nico says, I think it was 4.76 gigs. That's pretty small. And it took an hour. The PSN, I find the PSN network is so slow. Even if you have a great internet connection, if that thing doesn't have a great infrastructure. You can see that because they still haven't figured out how to change their own PSN names, their infrastructure is screwed. They've basically done probably what Windows did, and they just are piling more design on top of a bad foundation. And that's where the problem's coming from. Kazi says, try Halo 5. I think it's over 50 gigs on Australian internet. If you don't know Australian internet, how bad it is, it's real bad. They are far away. They are dealing with not great circumstances on there. I think they got about like a 1 megabyte per second upload. Maybe less, like 0.5 or something. 1 if you're in the big city. The Obsidian CEO, Fergus Urquhart, originally wanted New Vegas, Fallout New Vegas. He says, and I quote, originally we had this idea where the player would be able to choose between 3 races, human, ghoul, and super mutant. But they couldn't do it because of the Fallout 3 engine. Fergus Urquhart says, it really had to do with how all the weapons and armor worked. Trying to have them all work with ghouls and super mutants was just going to be... Bethesda felt like it was going to be a nightmare. It wasn't like they said no, but it was a very strongly worded, we would really suggest that you not try to do that. I mean, the Fallout 3 engine is, it's a fun sandbox, but yeah, there are obviously problems. When you're trying to put that many thousands of objects and all the different interactions you can do in a Fallout game, you can see why Bethesda said, you want to add more races? No. We have enough problems trying to get it with one body type. However, I think there are mods out that let you play as mutants. Nico Bellich, there used to be a glitch on PSN that you could get a free 12-month PS membership. Wow, that's almost how it should be. I don't mind paying, what is it, $60 a year? It's like $5 a month, and you get maybe one game you're going to play. I got Yakuza 0 out of it. Not 0, Yakuza 5 for the PS3. Rocket League. What are some other good scores? I tend to get a lot of games I've already bought. Or like that were already on sale and then they show up. About getting a chance to work on Fallout again. So Fergus Urquhart, the guy from Obsidian, was one of the main people that worked on Fallout 1 and Fallout 2. So Fallout 3 was made by a different team, and a lot of fans, hardcore fans of Fallout 1 and 2 said Fallout 3 didn't handle the gray area at all. Whereas Fallout 1 and Fallout 2 conveyed the mutants, the ghouls, the super mutants as intelligent people that had real motivations that made sense and were logical and really made you think about your role in the world and the philosophical reason of why you and the competing groups were doing anything. Fallout 3 was just like humans good, super mutants bad. They're just idiots. They're just basically orcs from Lord of the Rings that you should kill. Nico Bell says, I don't have a job, so I can't get a $60 membership. That is a very real problem for a lot of people. But I guess they would say, well, if you can't get the $60 membership, then people aren't going to be able to buy games anyway. So they're not, I guess they're not worried. Oh, but see, like, oh, the problem there is that if you're going to be playing, say, like a free-to-play online game, like the one that is kind of similar to Overwatch or Smite, but I guess you need PS Plus to play those games. So you have to choose, am I going to buy one game this year? Am I going to buy this this PS membership one so I can play the free ones online? So that becomes a very hard choice. Fergus Urquhart says, wait, I didn't leave Black Isle because I wanted to make another Fallout. I love making Fallout. I was the lead designer in Fallout 2. I'm not in any way instrumental in the creation of the special system, but I absolutely participated in the creation of it. They asked him about the setting. This was all done in, I believe Polygon talked to him. You can read the rest of this news story on 90skid.com, and I have the link to the original source there. On the setting, he says, someone threw up New Reno as one of those crazy things we did, and then we saw Vegas, and we just went with it. From there, it was like the 50s had the Rat Pack, and then someone threw out the idea. There was the scene in Goodfellas where you get taken out into the desert and whacked and thrown into a grave, and it all kind of turned that way. The first time we pitched it as Fallout Sin City. Very quickly, it got changed to Fallout Vegas, and then became Fallout New Vegas. Well, there you go. If you missed the gray area and the smarter writing of Fallout 1 and 2, and you didn't like what Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 offered, try New Vegas, because it is the closest thing you're going to find to 1 and 2. I actually just grabbed a nice bundle of Fallout 1, 2, 3, and Vegas, and I think I'm going to try playing Fallout 1 on this channel, see how far I can get into that. It's probably too big for me to finish while also playing, say, Final Fantasy, but be nice to just check it out and see what's the fuss about. The Grow Home devs are releasing an online PC shooter. Didn't see that coming. It's my yawn. That's where I go to yawn. It's going to be called Atmomega. This is going to come out on the PC. First time I've heard of this. It's coming out September 19th. A couple days now. It's going to cost you $10. 10-minute rounds, 8 players battling it out. You collect mass from squares. You grow more powerful. You can either collect them peacefully or you can attack and take from other players. So in a way, it's kind of like a MOBA in the way that you are constantly leveling up and getting more powerful. Could be really interesting. If you didn't play Grow Home, very, very interesting game. Controlling a climbing mechanics of a robot and just making things grow, climbing up as high as you can, flying. Really fun game. Shenmue 1 and 2 have been listed online. No price, nothing official yet, but at least 4 online retailers have listed the Shenmue 1 and 2 pack for PS4 and Xbox One. Getting through it. Alta, Herureka, Get Game, and Mad Gamer all have the listings up at the time of when I wrote the article. They lack promo art of photos of the physical product, but the game name and Sega branding are present, and the listings are still active at that time. Oh my god, I double wrote that. I'm going to have to go in and edit that one. That's on our website. Sega has already hinted at a remaster of the original game. They even registered ShenmueHD.com at one point. Shenmue 3's release date was pushed back from holiday 2017 to the second half of 2018, so you'll have time to run through Shenmue 1 and 2. This is one of those ones, just like Bayonetta and Vanquish being listed for the PS4 and Xbox One. Same thing. Same sites. Alta, Hureka. Of course they're going to want to put these out. They'd be stupid not to put them out. They don't even need to do an HD remaster. They just need to take those and make them purchasable. Get Bluepoint to do it. Bluepoint could do the HD remaster if they really need it. And you haven't made me tired. It's just midnight, and when you talk so much, you run out of oxygen to your brain. When you yawn, you're just trying to get more oxygen, so that's what's happening. It's because I don't have anybody to talk to in right here. So I have to do all the talking. Anyways, Shenmue 1 and 2 look like they're going to be coming out. That would make sense. I'd pay $30 for the two of them. Probably not 40 unless it was something new about it. Maybe some, like, a director's commentary would be pretty cool. I don't need it to be HD. I think the originals looked pretty good. Dreamcast was a beautiful system. Well, that's also LA Noire is going to cost more on the Switch. If you're buying it, it's going to cost you $10 more because of those expensive cartridges. Rockstar is not going to be like 2K Sports. They're not going to make people buy a bigger SD card. They're going to put up the money for a bigger flash drive to hold LA Noire. LA Noire has a ton of cutscenes, ton of visuals, CGI, tons and tons of voice dialogue, so that's going to take up a lot of room. They're not going to be able to squeeze that onto a smaller cart. We had some interesting tweets from Daniel Ahmad explaining the Switch's manufacturing costs compared to the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. He says, for those who always ask why, blame the price of game carts that Nintendo charged the publishers. He says the 32GB carts are ridiculously expensive. If a publisher wants to put a game on the 32GB cart on Switch, it costs 60% more. Earlier, I said 40% more. It's 60%. 60% more for them than it would just to make a 50GB Blu-ray on PS4 and Xbox One. God, and they're so tiny. Your game, again, I'm reading from Ahmad. Your game needs to be less than 8GB because 8GB carts are cheaper if you want to make the same profit margin as a PS4, Xbox One Blu-ray disc. So, the Switch version of Noir will include a few platform-specific features like HD Rumble, touchscreen, and motion controls. The PS4, Xbox One versions, however, will see updated visuals, so more HD to the HD. All versions will come with a full suite of DLC content previously released. That is it for the news. Thank you, Corey, Nico, and Kazi for joining me. I really had fun doing this. Maybe we'll do this every week. Don't have to find anybody to do it. I mean, obviously, I miss having Matthew Owen and Matthew Hayes to talk to. And Cookie Savage, thank you for dropping in. I hope you have fun at work today. And who else? Christian Emil Gonzalez Rivera came as well, and then he went to sleep. We'll be putting some music back on after this. Who knows? We might even do a little late night gaming stream. Who knows? But I had a lot of fun. You guys have a good time. And I will catch you later. Bye for now.